Recently, I was asked by a friend to come up to their property and help them with a little goat problem. That problem being that they had a couple of goats that were causing a bit of nuisance and they needed them knocked over. In fact, they wanted to convert them from goats into goat meat. So, my friend and I went up and we regularly hunt goats. So, we figured we'd go up and help them out and teach them how to kill, skin, and butcher a goat. I then put up a post on Instagram asking people whether you would be interested in seeing this, going through the process of how we do this. And overwhelmingly, you said, yes, you would be interested in seeing this. So, for that end, I have put together this video. This is not a pleasant video. This is an animal that is dead, that is being butchered. There is blood, there is gristle, there is bits being cut off, and there is bile coming out. So if you think you're queasy at all, maybe give this video a miss. Now, I do think it is important that these sorts of skills, though, do get passed on. This is something that we probably shouldn't hide from. Meat actually doesn't come to the supermarket nicely packaged like a little pink thing that you get chucked onto your barbecue, wrapped in plastic. It does come from a living animal, and I think it's important that we appreciate that process, the process of death of an animal, and the difficulty it actually takes to change that animal from that state there, from a living state, into butchered meat that we can then eat. Certainly for me, it gives me more appreciation for the meat that I'm eating. Now, this is not the most efficient or even the best way to skin and butcher a goat. Like the old saying goes, there's many different ways you can skin a cat, and I assume also a goat. This is just the way that my friend and I, Ned, have figured out how to do it. We were never taught. We just went out and started hunting feral goats. And then when we killed a feral goat out in the bush, out in the field, we had to do something with it. So over time, we have developed techniques and a way of working together to skin goats and butcher them so that we can usually pack them out. So it's not the neatest looking thing. It's not maybe the best way to do it, but this is the way that we do it. And so this is the way that I'm going to teach you how to do it. If there is some other way that you know, I would really appreciate you telling me that. Or maybe even go shoot a video yourself and we could all learn from it. But if you've never done anything like this before, then this could be quite eye-opening for you. Hopefully you learn something and can take something away from this. I think it's very important in this time where we are, considering what is happening with our food supply chain, what is happening with our access to food and where that might go in the future, that we start to learn these sorts of skills and that we start to actually help each other out by teaching each other how to do these sorts of things like hunting, like skinning and butchering. So this is a time-lapse video with a few little cut-ins of me talking about some of the key points that I think help explain how and why we do some of the things we do when we're butchering a goat. So please enjoy us butchering a goat. Alright, so we're starting to open up the stomach here, and I'll just show you how, like as a skinning technique, a rough skinning technique, you pull the skin away with one hand and then just drag the blade along on the inside here, and it starts to separate out. You can see that's coming away. If we wanted to actually keep the skin at this point, we'd be looking at trying to keep all this meat off the skin as best as possible. We're not too worried about that. The skin's probably going to end up as a dog chew toy at this point. So it can stay on there, and we're kind of going for maybe a little bit more speed and less finesse on this one. But I'll cut this down to the bottom of the sternum here, so the bottom of the rib cage, and then I'm going to cut around the testes here, take them off, cut all the way up here, and then I'm going to drop the guts out. Alright, so I've opened this up a little bit. I can probably open it a little bit more. I've just got I've taken the testicles off, and we've got the scrotum in the way here, but I'll cut that off with the skin. And I've opened up the actual abdominal layer here. So this is what keeps all the guts in. So I'm going to put my hand in there and put the knife in so the blade is coming out. So I'll essentially be running it down like that. And some people will get knives with like groovy little gut hooks and things like that, and you can do that, but this is just easier, or I find it easier at least. And then we just run that down. Very important that you don't puncture anything at this point. And you'll be able to feel with your hand the internal organs, so you'll probably be able to see it in a second, that I'm holding those organs back with my hand. So you can see them come out now. Could have gone down a bit lower, but all those organs can start to come out now. And pop them out. And we'll just get in there and cut them out and drop all these out. So after we've killed the goat, the initial kill shot, what you want to do is actually slit the goat's throat. And, so we did that at the start. You go in underneath the jawline there, in and then out, and then open up the neck until you can see the spine, and you actually sever the spine cord. And you do that as quickly as possible so that there's no suffering or anything like that. It's a very instantaneous kill, and then it's all done. What I was going to do and I forgot to do with this one, and this is a pretty good important little lesson, because I've done it with sheep before, is then you cut out a little bit of the trachea in the throat, you pull it out and you tie it in a knot, so then no food and stuff can actually get out. So I'll show you what that actually looks like. You can see there, all that food has now come out and is kind of stinking the place up. Basically. So to keep things neat, you can pull that out, tie a knot in it and let it sit there. And then when we're dropping the guts and I start pushing, change the pressure in the stomach, all that food's not going to come out through that hole. So we're going to do that now so nothing else comes out. So I was saying trachea before. What I meant to say was esophagus. Anatomy fail. All right, so I've just taken the stomach contents out and then pulled out the lungs, heart. So we've got lungs, heart, liver, kidneys are all things that you might consider eating as well, and the rest of it, not so much. But that's essentially now empty out inside. So what we're going to do now is skin the animal. So first off, starting at the top, what we're going to do is go around just above what would be knee, I guess, or heel. Yeah, heel. And then we're going to come in, cut a Y from that point there once we go around there and collar it down to here. Same up here, around there, Y down there, and start to peel those bits back. So we're going to skin from there and then open it up and then start going down from the top. So a pretty important part is when we're actually cutting here, this is essentially the Achilles tendon. We don't want to cut that because that's actually helping hold the gimbal up here. So if you sever that, then this whole thing is going to fall off. It's going to be an encumbrance to try and hold this up there. So be careful when you're actually cutting around that area. These expert hands work. So you can see here, now we're doing these Y cuts, coming down the inside of the leg and inside of the leg there, connecting up to this part. All right, so we're at the point now where we're starting to skin, so you can see that we've taken a bunch of the skin off down here, and we're just working our way, pulling the skin back, using a knife on this sort of stuff here, and as that cuts, this falls away. So starting to get down towards the bottom part. When we get a bit closer, we'll take off the head and cut around here as well, around the ankles, and then we'll just be left with this goat meat. El caco. So we've skinned it down to the neck, and now we've just cut through with a bone saw through the actual spine, and then cut around the meat with a knife, and that's dropped the skin with the head attached. So that'll go into our wheelbarrow, and we'll get rid of that. All right, so we've got our skinned goat now. So looking a lot more like what you'd see in the butchers, more probably. Now we're gonna start cutting this up. So we'll start on the gimbal, and we'll just get the bone saw and go straight down through the spine and through this part here, which is quite hard, and separate these two halves and then start butchering from there. Here's our deer, our goat. Here's our goat split in half. Yeah, I wish it was a deer. All the way down there is that last little bit that we just cut through, but just, I think that looks pretty spectacular. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm. I'm getting hungry.
All right, next thing that we're gonna do here is start the butchering process sort of proper. We're going to take this shoulder off here. So this area up around here, the shoulder blade is actually sitting in under there, and I can almost start to break that up with my fingers, but that'll cut through quite easily, and you can see the shoulder blade there, the cartilage. So it's going to cut up around there, down around there, and that shoulder will just pop off. Basically, it's not really connected super strongly apart from sinew and some muscles. And then that's the shoulder blade that we're looking at, sort of like that cartilagey part. So you can see how easily that pops off. So the shoulder there, I've cut this one from the inside. You can see I've just cut through the muscle and things like that there to open it up like this. So you can see how easily that entire shoulder comes off. And then I've just got these last little bits of muscle and sinew, and that'll pop straight off. And that can go straight in on the smoker. All right, so these are the flares, not 1970s disco version, but the abdominal muscles. So yeah, abdo wall here. Yep, it starts about there and then sort of opens up to there. So you're going to cut down along this rib line here. Keep the ribs up along the spine and then out there. So that's our flare. Yum. And we're left with this. So the leg, the rear leg, rump, as I might call it, the spine, and the ribs. So what we're going to do next is separate the leg from the spinal cord. So spinal cord comes up here, and this is the hip girdle. We got the hips that are sitting in there, and then in here we've got this bone that comes down, which would be the femur, and there's a ball at the end of the femur that connects into a socket in the hip, and then it's got a little, at the end of that ball there's a ligament that goes from that ball into the socket, holding the ball in the socket, called the acetabulum. Now this is probably one of the trickier cuts. It's easy to kind of hit bone a lot on this one, but you just sort of feel where the bone is. So it's down there, and I'm going to cut in up there, up along here. You got to do different angles around here, so come in around the hip and just keep opening it up, opening it up, opening it up, opening it up, and I'll keep going around in a circular fashion, opening it up a little bit more each time until I can see the capsule that's in there of that actual joint. And then when I hit the capsule, then I'll carefully sort of open up that capsule, try and reef open the hip socket and cut that acetabulum, at which point this will fall and hit the floor if you're not holding on to it, which is what I did on the first one. All right, so I haven't done a great job of this, but if you can see in here that that's the ball there, and that's the socket that it's sitting in. So I've popped it so it's just about to come out, and that there, that little part where my thumb's on, that's the acetabulum that I'm talking about. So there's still a bit of other stuff connecting it on the other side, but once I cut that, that's going to pop out, and there's another great view of it. You can see that's cut there, so that's the acetabulum that's cut, and it sits in there. So now it's cutting the spine along there. So this is, all this area here is the backstrap, which is really nice meat to eat. And then we'll get in here, we'll cut this rib area off, and we'll have ribs and a couple of sections of the spine. All right, so with the legs here, the back legs, what I'm going to do is just take this skin off a little bit more to about there, and then we're just going to get the saw and cut them off there. That way we're going to keep that entire rear leg intact. Nothing's fallen off it. All right, there we have it, the butchered goat. So we've got the hip bones, got the spine bones here, spine parts. We've got flares, the legs, the shoulders, the ribs. Yeah, everything.
Pretty good.
So there you have it, a very down and dirty, rough guide to how to skin and butcher a goat. As I said at the start, there's probably many different ways that you could do this, but this is just the way that we happen to do it, or do it most times when we're doing it out in the field. Now, with this, there's obviously a lot of legalities that are going to change wherever you are in the world, and I can't say what that is because I don't probably live where you live in the world. I know in Australia it is actually quite restrictive. You can't just go and kill a lot of your own livestock and sell it off to other people. I believe you can kill some of your livestock, and as long as you can butcher it in a safe, clean and efficient way, you can eat it yourself, but don't quote me on that. Make sure that you check what the legalities are on it, and if at any point you are suspect on any of the processes that you've done or on the meat at all, then just don't eat it. It's not worth putting yourself or your family at risk doing that. But hopefully you learnt something from this video here. If you've got any questions about anything at all, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you've got other ways that you think people should do it, or things that I've missed out on, because there's probably a whole bunch of stuff that I missed out on, please feel free to chuck it into the comments and I'll try and respond as quickly as possible. I don't always get onto them super fast, but I'll try to get onto them as quickly as possible. But apart from that, thanks for watching. If you like this, please feel free to chuck a like on there, give it that thumbs up, share it with other people, and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me, and it helps spread the word that I'm trying to put out there, which is that as human beings, we should actively seek to be more self-reliant. And this is certainly one of the skills that will help you become more self-reliant. The fact that we can try and take our food system back and have greater control over that. So please feel free to share it, like, subscribe, all that good stuff on the YouTubes. But until next time, thanks for watching, and Semper Paratus.